Hey everyone, welcome to Between the Buns, where today is everything about National Bagel Day and Bagel Eating Contest. We are joined by Darrien Yeats. Man, I am terrible with this fucking camera. I always point the opposite way.
It's very disorienting.
Dude, it's always there. We go. God damn it. So we're here to talk everything about the National Bagel Day contest yesterday here in Las Vegas and get to the bottom of it. But before we do, we want to start with Challenge of the Week and get Darren's thoughts on a Challenge of the Week. Let's see it. So we have in Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona, Gilligan's Pizza Roll Challenge. 144. It's got to be the Totino's pepperoni pizza rolls. 1 hour, $50 bar tab, free meal. Initial thoughts, Darren?
I remember this challenge because I think it was one of the first videos that Magic Mitch ever uploaded on his channel, if I recall correctly. And I like the prize. I like the prize structure for this challenge for sure. It's something unique. I love those challenges where they give you something totally, out from left field, something super unique.
So I did that one. This is a night that'll live in infamy. We go there. It's the week after they lifted mask restrictions back in the day, if you know what I'm saying. And this bar is packed. I'm talking sardine can, wall to wall. So Blaine is there, Magic Mitch is there, myself is there. I order it. They come out. It's on like that sheet tray. That thing was hot enough to like fry an egg on. It took them 45 minutes to cool down and they were still hot. So the whole entire bar, because I don't know if you remember that, like post-mask restriction, people going wild. The whole bar is cheering me on. They're like screaming, we're meeting friends. Blaine is taking shots with these random dudes. Like everyone is going nuts. I beat it in like 11 minutes. I'm absolutely like, we've been drinking or whatnot. And so I'm like, Blaine has friends come out. I beat the challenge. I love it because, like, as a former fat kid stoner in college, Totino pizza rolls are the most important food group, right? Like if we have the pyramid, you got like, Jack's frozen pizzas. Then you got like Miller Lite and other shitty beers. And then you got the pizza rolls. And then Top Ramen, which is God tier. Top Ramen, right? So I'm like, Blaine, are you coming back to the hotel with us or are you staying? Oh, I'm going to stay here. I'll be back in like a half an hour. I just want to see my friends. So we get back to the hotel. It's like 10 minutes away. I'm scrolling on Instagram. In Scottsdale, where that challenge is, they don't really do Ubers. They have golf carts. And Blaine is filming himself. The golf cart, that's how they like get people around for safety, all this stuff. It's crazy. Here's Blaine filming himself on the back of a golf cart, like, ah! And I'm like, oh fuck. Like we're leaving the next morning, right? So I pass out. I haven't had a ringer on my phone since like 2013. My phone's always on silent. Magic Mitch wakes me up at 5:30 in the morning and goes, hey, we have to go get Blaine. I check my phone. I have 48 missed calls from Blaine. 48. No bullshit. 48 missed calls. He tells us that he's in Glendale, which is like 45 minutes away from where we are staying and the food challenge. So the hotel was here. The bar is here like 10 minutes away. Blaine is like 45 minutes in the middle of nowhere. And he's like, yeah, this girl was really sad. So I walked her home to make sure she was safe. And when I got there and I was trying to get an Uber home, I didn't have a mask. So I'm at a gas station. These guys tried to beat me up. Can you come get me? And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, yeah, we'll come get you. So then we get him and Mitch is like, there's got to be more to this story, right? We go find him. And he's like literally ducked between like a trash can and a recycling bin in the back, hiding like a hobbit, like a gremlin, right? And we're like, dude, what's going on? He's like, so I couldn't get in an Uber because I didn't have a mask. And I couldn't go inside the gas station to buy the mask because they wouldn't let people come in with the mask. And the guy working at 3 a.m. Come to find out, he walks this girl home. He loses his hat. These guys try to jump him. And I'm like, we got to get the hell out of here. So yeah, that was our tale of Gilligan's and the pizza challenge. Was Blaine almost dying by trying to walk home some girl, and we're like, yeah, this is what happens. You try to be a nice guy. I'm like, see, man, that's why you got to be mean. If you would have never walked her home, you wouldn't have lost your favorite hat and then gotten your ass whooped almost behind a dumpster at a gas station at 3 a.m. Only Blaine. Only Blaine, right?
Yeah.
See, that's the good thing about how I party. I'd be way too drunk to ever walk someone home because someone's always got to walk me home, right? That's the good thing. So let's talk bagels here. That was our challenge of the week. One of the best challenges. Delicious. I mean, it's a gutter challenge, right? It's pizza rolls. But it's a very
really any
very
challenge I've got far for sure.
I think your current state now, you crush it still. It's like 4.5 pounds. Prime time Darrien eats 5 minutes or less. No bullshit. 5 minutes. I bet you go crazy on that.
Under 44, that sounds like a lot. So he's one of those at least weighs an ounce, right?
They aim it at 4.5 pounds. So I don't know, 1.5 ounces maybe, something like that. No, I guess not, because 1.5 ounces would be like 10 pounds. So maybe a half ounce. Yeah, I guess it'd be a half ounce. Dude, they have the wildest challenges. They do like 5 pounds of great value tater tots. They do like a fry challenge where it's just like a 2-pound burger and 5 pounds of French fries. Like one of those. I'm like, that sounds terrible.
See, that's funny because there's like an East Coast version of that actually in Pittsburgh. I forgot the name of the place, but I know it's a similar type deal where it's like a bunch of like random stuff like that. Like I know one was like a 3-pound beefaroni challenge basically, and then they have a shoe leather steak. It's not even an actual cut that's supposed to be steak. I'm sure it's probably like some cheap London broil or something like that they just cooked up, you know. So I gotta look up the name of the place. Maybe that can be the food challenge for next week.
There we go. We found it. But no, everyone, after that challenge of the week, we'll move on to bagels here. It was National Bagel Day. Bagelmania hosted the second annual bagel eating challenge. It's an 8-minute contest, and it's plain bagels. They're a 1/3 pound. I actually bought some and weighed them, and they were a 1/3 pound. And the first year, we only got 1 tablespoon of cream cheese. This year, they gave us 2. And we did see a slight decline in numbers, but that field was stacked, bro. I mean, 9 of the top 12 eaters currently. Now, yes, that's always up for debate and whatnot of who the top 12 are, who, you know, all the rankings are always up for debate, whatever. But it was literally like a stack contest. I mean, you had Joey, Jeff, Miki, Nick, Webby. Gideon was supposed to be there, but unfortunately he didn't make it. Myself, Pat Bertoletti, Darrien, Thomas, and then we had Glizzy, Lizzy, Cherish, and Sergio Reyes. So, I mean, overall, even at from the other end of the table of Cherish and Glizzy battling it out, I mean, they were in a tight race all the way to Joey and Jeff. So, yeah, man. What are your thoughts? What are your questions for that?
Well, that is a super stacked lineup. But first thing I want to ask you, since you said they had up the amount of cream cheese from the previous year, and I know that had an adverse effect on the rest of the field. But for you, you said your number went up along with Darrien's too. Bean Curd's number went up too. So, do you think the extra cream cheese helped, or do you think it's something else like the extra practice, just a little more wisdom from the extra year? Or?
I don't know, because I mean, Jeff finished with 14.5, down from 17.75, and he did say he had a hard swallow around minute 6 where he felt that's where he lost it to Joey. Like he was like, and in the commentary, if you watch my video, you'll hear Sam say throughout the contest, Jeff was beating Joey, and that's where Jeff is like, I had a hard swallow minute 6 and did that. Darrien and I ate the same amount roughly. Like I think I was at 8 and he did 7.5 or something like that, or vice versa. And I was at 8 and got deducted a quarter of a bagel, which I'm like, okay. And Darrien, which I was like proud of him because normally he's one of the messier dudes, he got 0 deductions. So, you know, hats off to him. He cleaned up his act and, you know, has a kid, gets engaged, no more deductions on the stage. So, him and I stayed the same. But I will tell you that, like, so my strategy last year was no strategy. I mean, it's me, right? I was eating just the full bagels, trying to get them in, whatnot. This year, Miki, Nick, and myself worked on pulling apart the bagels and going top and bottom. I can tell you I was about 2 times slower on the non-cream cheese side. So when I had to eat that top one, because for whatever reason, the bottom one had all the cream cheese and the top one had nothing. So like that's truthfully where I struggled, was that top one. And I was like, I tried 3 different ways, which I think Brett will appreciate. Instead of just trying to keep pounding it out, I was just like, let's try ripping. Let's try this. I had 6 water cups or 7 water cups, and I almost went through all of them. So I was just hammering fluid.
How big were the cups?
They were big. They bought special ones because I would say they were close to, they were like that size. They were like the big Nathan's cups we'd get on stage that we no longer get.
Probably.
Yeah, because my Gatorade is pretty close. So, yeah, probably 32 ounces. So, yeah, I mean, which is great. I mean, I love the bigger cups. They were wide mouth. But it was tough for everyone. You know, like we all saw them, and I was like, but that cream cheese side. So it was so funny because it'd be like, here's the dry side, here's the dry side. I'd hit the cream cheese, boom. Like I could just get through the cream cheese so much faster, which doesn't make sense because a lot of people are like, oh, the cream cheese is like a barrier for the water in the dunk soaking it up. I didn't even care because I almost like, it was kind of like I'd asked you guys. I was able to get the cream cheese to slide a lot easier than the dry part.
See, that's what I would have figured too. Well, what confuses me is, did they not serve it sandwiched together like that, or
No,
were they separated?
No, they were together. So like every bagel, I was pulling apart, and so was Miki and Nick.
You said there was a dry side too, so I figured like it would stick to both sides, but I guess.
I thought so too, but no, it was not. It was so crazy. I'm guessing when they made them, they were literally like cutting them in half, right? Slicing them and then doing the bottom and placing the top on half. Because literally most of the tops came right off. And even after the contest, I gave my mother-in-law and my dad one. And I was like, listen, you're going to want to eat the half. Because like, oh, we only want a half. I'm like, eat the half with the freaking cream cheese on it, because it was like night and day, so much easier. And even those sides popped right off, like completely, like no residue of anything.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I wonder too, like if they have this again next year, I wonder if it would help, like do one of these before you eat it to evenly disperse the cream cheese on both halves. I don't know.
I think next year, like my evolution has been a lot longer than most people's. Like you've picked up this sport like that, right? Pat is dialed in. Pat's a great eater. Joey, I think I got to go 1. It's just I can't overstuff type of thing. That's the big thing, is that overstuff, because once you get junked up, it is so tough, especially with bagels, because like, when you do hot dog buns and you put warm water in your mouth, you can kind of disintegrate them down. Or like when you were talking about donuts, like it just collapses. Mm-hmm. The bagel structure, I think it's because they're boiled in water, just holds up so well to any of that. But no, I mean, Joey won 15. Jeff came in second, 14 and a half. Then it was Webby, I think at like 13, maybe 12. I think it was 13.
They're all pretty close to each other.
Then we go down. Pat was like 10 and a half, or Nick was 10 and a quarter. So Nick was down 4 bagels almost, because he did 14 the year over. He was down 4. And then Pat was 10 and a quarter. Miki was 10. And then Darrien and I were 7 and a half and 7 3/4. And that was for 7th and 8th place. I mean, it was just crazy, right? But it was like to not get doubled up by Joey and all of that. Like that's how tight we were. You know what I'm saying? Like in essence. And like 3 minutes in or 2 minutes in, like Joey was at bagel 5. I was working on my 3rd bagel. So I'm like, man, there's not that. And maybe you didn't feel it, but like my first Coney when we were at that ballpark, right? Remember that baseball stadium?
Yeah.
Dude, I had like my best like 16 dog split ever. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm cooking today. And they're like, Joey Chestnut's just hit 35. And I'm like, holy shit.
That's so defeating, isn't it? Especially because I know I would be right next to him just looking over, and he's just going ham over there. He just doesn't slow down. It's insane.
No, he doesn't. Bagels, if you watch the tape, he really he didn't slow down, but it was like everyone's a lot slower and more methodical on bagels. It's not a food that's like when we watched donuts last week and I had the footage go up where you guys could just speed those through. It's not a food that innate speed. Like you listen to the numbers and it's like they don't sound that impressive. Like, oh, you guys only ate 8 bagels in 8 minutes. It's like, dude, eat those bagels. Because, I mean, at a third pound, they're huge. Yeah. No, like, I mean, Joey ate 15. They're 3 to a pound. He still ate 5 pounds of dough, like just bagels and shit.
I can understand where you're coming from. I've never done a bagel eating contest per se, but I've definitely done contests that were, where the foods were super difficult because it's like a just dense dough. Like a good example would be the pepperoni rolls that they always had in Fairmont, West Virginia. I think Brett was talking about it last time, but they're about this size, but they're super dense and dunking really does nothing. And I'm assuming bagels the same way it really does nothing and doesn't soak any of it. And to top it off, there's like 3 Slim Jim sticks of pepperoni inside, And I know those numbers. Well, they were higher than bagel because they weren't quite as big. I don't think they were a third of a pound or anything like that. But
yeah,
I know to win, it was usually like, high 20s, low 30s. So much lower than other contests.
That's still crazy. No, they're talking about bringing this event back again. Their vision is to make it like the Winter Classic almost, like the Nathans of the West Coast. I mean, they've invested a lot in it. They proclaimed it like National Bagel Eating Day yesterday in Las Vegas. It was a tough contest. Like, afterwards it was like tough. Like, I don't think anyone was full yesterday, and that's always a rare day, right? Like it was a lot of strategy. I still try to figure out, and I think I just have to go to like one bagel to get there. But like, it was like Webby's like, man, that thing's a jaw workout, right? And then you look at Jeff, and Jeff's like one hard swallow cost him the contest. Like he was ahead of Joey for most of it. And then it was like Joey snaked him as soon as he like let off, like you said, Joey doesn't stop kind of thing. As soon as Jeff had like a little pause, Joey's like, and never looked back. I mean, and there's a half of a bagel right there, right? That's all he needed.
Because that is one thing that is impressive about Joey. Because I know, everyone usually ramps up for the first 3.5, 4 minutes or so. And then your pace slows and like the curve slowly flattens if you were to plot it out on a chart. Yeah. But Joey, that curve is less aggressive and he slopes more upwards like that. And it really doesn't plateau off until really late into the contest.
I mean, I think that's what makes him like, the number one, right? Is like he doesn't plateau as much. To be honest, most everyone had really good, consistent pacing because it's not like hot dogs where you can like, for lack of a better analogy, like running around a track. Hot dogs, some people like, Miki I've always looked up to because she's very good at pacing. Like if she eats 100 of something in a 10-minute contest, she's very good about 10, 10, 10, where I'm like 25, 21, 7, 2, maybe. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, that plateau. And it was like everyone, though, like Darrien and I were going back and forth because him and I were like tied until like minute 5, I'd say. And then he had a small hiccup. And he coughed, a legitimate cough. Just need that on record, a legitimate cough. And that's where I was able to take him and go with a half up on him. Because, I mean, it's like, even Nick told me that he had one of those instances where it's not a choke. You get it caught in your throat and you don't know if you're going to go up or down, right? And it's one of those things we all work through that it's scary, but it's not like a choke. And you're just like, where can I massage this? Well, that's all time, right? And normally it was like I talked to my dad. He came out yesterday, and we even brought Jane. Jane got to see her first competitive eating contest. Got to meet Joey. So Joey has that dog in him. That's what Jane told me. So my dad was like, normally I'm notorious for about, like you said, that 5 to 6 minute mark. I hit my like wall per se. Not that I'm full, but like you're just over it, you're tired. And I don't stop, but like you get backed up, right? Like, that feeling where you're overstuffed and you're like trying to, he's like, you didn't do that. He's like, you paused for a little bit. And that's when I had to like hard swallow and like throw it back. And, also I've worked on increasing the amount of water to swallow later in the contest. Almost like, it's going to sound gross, but it's like if you pour water in a toilet, right? Your dad's a plumber, so he'll understand that. Sometimes you got to like dump a lot more water to get the pipe to get cleared versus like in the early stages, I take those micro sips, like just enough to get it to go down. At the end yesterday, I looked at the Kool-Aid man. I'm just like stone cold chugging beers. I was just like,
yeah,
100%. But no,
I can relate because I mean, you were there when we did the DraftKings, the Halloween Candy Fest or whatever it was called.
Yeah,
I mean, I was doing the same thing towards the end. I was just so desperate to get down like the candy corn or whatever it was. I was just slamming down the water. So I can definitely relate. I know exactly.
I mean, that's one of my favorite contests because I think I watched you turn a 6-pound candy contest into a 2-gallon jug con. Like it was just impressive. Blaine and I was like, holy shit.
That was the only way I was getting the stuff down. And see, that's why bagels seem so tough because I know me. I know usually I always had a lack of strategy because I didn't practice for a lot of events except for Nathan's.
Yeah.
So bagel is the only thing I would think I could do like on the fly is just take small manageable bites. And did they let you use plastic bottles or did you have to use the sponsors' cups?
Well, they have their own bottles. So I didn't see anyone use the bottles. Everyone poured the water into cups. I didn't see Miki because I know she's really good at that, but everyone else was using the cups just to dunk. No one was really using that to squeeze through. But no, they gave us bottled water and cups. Like I said, Miki, myself, and Nick really pulled it apart, and I think so did Bertoletti for a while. But like Webby, Jeff, and Joey weren't going to mess around with that. It was just bite, go, bite, go. It was interesting, though, because normally, and I don't know if you have faced this, rarely do the rules get addressed pre-contest and there's questions. And the only time I've had that was when we had a qualifier in Pleasanton 2 years ago when Webby won and there was Eric Denmark, Pablo, and myself. And that was Webby's first time eating hot dogs, but we all knew he was good. But they didn't know, hot dogs is always a random thing, right? Mm-hmm. So Sam was like, hey, today we're going to be watching debris heavily. If it's in the cups, I'm counting it. When you chipmunk, you must step away from the table and you have 30 seconds to clear. You can't use your hand to hold it. And you have to swallow what's in your mouth, whatever you can't get out, whatever you can't hold it. If something, it doesn't count. Pre-contest yesterday, we had some questions. And so Cherish asked, great question, because I didn't think of it, not because I didn't think of it as a great question, but going back to what I said, where one side of the bagel didn't get cream cheese, she asked, can I finger flick the cream cheese? So here's the cream. Can I scrape it off?
Go like that or something.
Because I think she was trying to get rid of the barrier of it hitting in the dunk. And that was her thought process, is if I can get the cream cheese off, get it on my finger, I'm reducing it, now I can get it down and go that route. Which Sam was like, absolutely not. Do not touch the cream. He was like, absolutely not. Do not touch the cream cheese at all. You can pull apart the bagel. You can dunk the bagel. We're not touching it. And he actually called it out yesterday. He called Miki on it, and he called Pat on the break. Yeah, he enforced it. He thought Miki was doing it, and so he said, and when you watch my video, I kept that part in there to show he was actually watching that, because he called Pat on debris, he called Miki on debris, he called Jeff on debris, and he called Joey on debris. During the contest, not afterwards. He wasn't he was like, hey, I need you to clean that up, which I was surprised, because rarely
I know he does that sometimes. I know
I've never heard him call
Darrien a lot. I compete with him.
I've never heard him call Joey or Jeff. No, I've heard that, but I've never heard him call Joey or Jeff on debris.
Really? I've heard him a few times. Some contests.
But I was just shocked that they were enforcing it. I think they knew though, with not Gideon, so it was 8 of the top 12. But like with that amount of eaters, we all know I'm not going to win. Darrien's not going to win. Maybe Nick can pull it out. Miki is good, like, right? She has her moments where she can, just come out of nowhere. Kind of like, not come out of nowhere. I mean, she's the third ranked eater. But like Hot Dish, right? She slams Hot Dish, like what, 15, 16 pounds. So you can never count her out. You got Webby, who's just that's an event we need to talk about because I'm still unclear, even with living in the Midwest, which I'll tell you, we'll end the podcast with an amazing announcement, right? So I lived in the Midwest for 17 years. I don't know what a hot dish is. I'm like, they're like, oh, it's a hot dish. I'm like, what the fuck is a hot dish? It's a dish that's hot. Yeah, great. Cool.
I think it's just wild rice is what it was. Wild rice. I believe it was a Native American dish because it was at a Native American casino.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the place.
It's not Mystic Lake. Fortune Bay?
Fortune Bay, that's it. I remember.
What a great name for a casino. Are you broke as shit? Come on up to Fortune Bay where the fortunes are flowing and going, baby, right? Catch your jackpot.
In the middle of nowhere, too, because it's right off of a Native American reservation, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
That was one of those contests where I'd have to fly into St. Paul, Minneapolis, and then rent a car and drive 3 hours up there. It was quite the hassle just to come in third place. So
yeah, right. I mean, I told people I would not go to the bagel contest if it wasn't in Vegas. Like, it's like the newest contest they just released. I think it's Uranus. I don't think it's my anus. It's Uranus. Fudge Festival.
Jackass, isn't it? The my anus.
Yeah, and so it's the Uranus Fudge Festival. They call their employees the Fudge Packers, I guess. And it's like in Mississippi or Missouri. I'm like, where am I going to fly into? I think Pat said he was going to go. Juan Morbite is going to go. Miki, Jeff, probably Joey, and Nick are all going to go. I'm like, we got pistachios next. And I know like Darrien's going and all of that. Like, I'm not going to pistachios because I can't eat like that. Like, I am terrible.
French food too.
Right? Like,
all hand speed.
Dude, I love it. I wish we could do like sushi with chopsticks, like, right? Like you can't use your hand. And you just dude, what are you gonna do?
Miki would be one to watch for.
Dude, you'd have to give me those. What do they give the kids? Where it's like the little bender thing in the middle.
Yeah, like with a little rubber band on it.
Dude, it'd be like Edward 40 hands. They just tape the chopsticks to my hands. I'm just like, I just go Jeffrey Dahmer and start stabbing the shit. You never said I had to pick it up. You just said I had to use the chopstick, okay? No, it was a good contest. Joey, I'll be honest, I'm almost glad he won because it was like they announce everyone, right? And this is where I'm going with my special announcement. So on Friday, I got to go on the news. That was fun. It was interesting. It was like one of my first times going on the live news. I've done a few with Coney, whatever. And that was cool. But then Joey got all the news and I was like, that's dope, right? Like he's the marquee name. I'm not complaining. What I find funny is that like everyone's like, we love Vegas locals. And I'm like, I'm a Vegas local. Dude, I came out there. It was like crickets. It was like Brandy and my family and my coworkers. I came like, all right, there. Joey comes up. It was like when fucking Neil Peart goes into a drum solo. You just see the phones go up, and then you hear the chants, Joey. And I'm like, man, I really feel the hometown love. I'm like, I think I'm going to stop saying I'm from Vegas and just go back to the Midwest. Like, I'm from Wisconsin. It's what I do. I understand. I'm not built for this city. I like Miller Lite. I like cheese, and I'm going. I'm like,
better luck at the cheese curd contest when they have that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going back. I'm just gonna change my bio. Don't list me as Vegas. Keep me in the 920. Like I'm going back to my roots. Like I'm done changing the social handles. I'm done, man. No, it was just it was just funny because my mother-in-law made the comment. She's like, this is crazy. She's never been to Coney. My dad's never been to Coney. This was the first time they've ever seen Joey eat. And they just thought it was crazy that like the contest probably had 400, okay, maybe not that many, but I mean, I would say there's 200 plus people there yesterday.
Oh, that's pretty good turnout. Actually, I want to ask you, what was the venue like? Because it was at their flagship store, right? Like,
yeah, so they have just mainly that store, and then the one you ate at in the
airport.
In the airport, and that's for Bagelmania. I mean, they have donut shops. They have more of those. So it's right in their like location, but they do it on the parking lot. They shut it kind of down. They put up a nice stage. They did like a whole production thing. I mean, it's top notch, bro. They do a great job, phenomenal job. I mean, there's no stone unturned. I don't know if they streamed it because I know they said it's a lot of work to stream that shit. It's a lot of work for like when we go on Nathan's, all the different cameras and the angles and all production added, it's like people watch this video. Oh, it's not good production. Dude, it's tough to produce things and edit on the fly and whatnot. And it was just in their parking.
An in-house social media guy, that stuff's expensive. Hiring.
I mean, they had like a whole team because they're that big of an organization, and they had a bunch of people doing it. I mean, they had this whole area roped off in front of the stage so their cameras could be there and their VIPs and whatnot. And I know Darrien filmed on stage. I didn't because I was just like, it's tough videos. Like I personally sometimes don't want to watch me eat bagels or hot dogs for something like skin close in the splash zone so I was like, let's just film something a little bit different. But no, they had like a whole production thing just in their parking lot. There's no like green room or anything like we just sit around and whatnot. But in terms of like tons of water and cups. So, I mean, it's a solid event, but I mean, year one, I would say we probably had 100 people, maybe a little bit more, give or take. I would say with the appearance of Joey, it literally doubled. Like it was crazy. Wow. Like Brandy even was like, wow, I knew he had the following. Like we all know Joey's Joey, but to like double an event size just because of an appearance was crazy. And I mean, they did a great job marketing. Like all of my social media was showing that like they were sponsoring that ad to get traction, which is great. Because, I mean, how many times do we go somewhere and people are like, oh, what are you here for? Oh, we're here for the donut eating contest. Oh, we didn't even know we were having one. And you're like, great, thank you so much. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it gets tough like that.
Especially those events that are like a part of something else. Like, for instance, it's part of like a music festival, like a state fair or whatever, maybe. Not everyone knows about it, so.
Yeah, they're just like at a rock concert and they're like, who are these guys like eating hot dogs and drinking 3 gallons of lemonade?
Yeah, those are all the Major League Baseball qualifiers.
Right? Dude, I love those ones. I've only done one and it was a minor league game. But I mean, it was tough because there was no like lag time. It was like game ins, go before the firework. But it was fun.
You have to wait till the end of the game?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because I went to one, and actually I was a Beard's bun girl for that contest.
Was that the one at Shea Stadium?
I'm sorry?
Yeah. It was like New York, right? Yeah.
And I remember it was before the contest. It wasn't actually out on the ball field or anything like that. It was just in the parking lot. And then afterwards, we all got free tickets and went to watch the game. It was pretty cool because they had mentioned that Beard won the qualifier, and he was on the Jumbotron with us. So
that's awesome. Cool. I didn't know they put you on the Jumbotron. We did not get that. We got like the free tickets we got. And that was when I used to carry around the hammers. Remember that? So I had like my Thor hammer and they wouldn't let me in the stadium with my Thor hammer. They're like, this is a weapon. And I'm like, I have a tripod with a screw on the bottom. That's not a weapon that I could like stab someone with a screw. But a plastic hammer, you're going to deny. Like, okay, this is how Utah rolls. Okay. Yeah, no, we had to wait till the end of the game. Well, we had to wait until the 7th inning, and then we got put in the bottom of the stadium. And then this is when I was still relatively new, and I hadn't quite figured out like the logistics of things. So I'm looking at these hot dogs, and I'm like, wow, we're not eating for like another hour, and they're already all plated. And then now I'm like, oh fuck, these hot dogs. Now you and I be like, oh, they're gonna be cold. What do we go for? All that. back then I'm like, wow, that's a lot of hot dogs. Now I'm like, oh shit, we don't even get fresh ones today. We're like, last year at Pleasanton, it was like, oh, we're eating in 5 minutes. Let's plate the dogs. And I'm like, oh, that's partly why I got a PR in Pleasanton. The dogs got plated 3 minutes before we went on stage. They were still fresh. They were still delicious. You know what I'm saying? It makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, 100%. And like how they're prepped too, and who preps them. Because I remember the Norfolk qualifiers, they actually had a Nathan's location out there. So it was all Nathan's staff cooking the dogs, and they're always great. But then I remember I did one qualifier in Maryland at a hot balloon festival, which was really random. And I remember like they had a bunch of Boy Scouts cook the hot dogs for us. They brought out this like portable, like, you know, those Coleman flat top grills. And then they had like a bunch of Boy Scouts and like the Scoutmasters cooking there. And then some of them were like kind of sus, you know, they hadn't really like cooked it all the way through. So it does vary a lot by location, because I've heard some places they boil the dogs too. So
I mean, when I was at Pleasanton, they were on the flat top. Then they were put into the steamer, like a warmer to bring over. So it would get steamed in essence. And it makes a huge difference. But to go back to bagels, we had all thought that Jeff was going to win. So I thought that was interesting that Joey snaked us, proved us wrong. He's always proven us wrong. Then we did hit Jeff. But, I mean, it was a neck and neck battle. And then with Webby, I think we saw that we knew he'd be up there. I know you guys had me at fourth. I'm sorry I let you down. I did eat well. I think when you see the footage, you'll see that that's the hard part. Like you and Brett said, if you guys didn't go down and everyone went down, you did well, right? Because that means like Bertoletti and Webby last year probably been 15 and 13 and up higher. But it was like Darrien and I were right next to each other, just squaring off, and we were going bite for bite, like I said. And I knew I wasn't too far behind Nick because I was looking at his plates, and I'm like, man, we are all kind of not moving. You know what I mean? How like sometimes like you would see people start to jump, and then like as the contest progresses, you know, it's like hot dogs, right? Like everyone kind of settles in where Joey's at like 40. The next group of like you and Jeff were at like 30 and upper 20s. And then the next group was like low 20s, high. It was like I was finishing bagel 5 or 6 and Joey was only at like 9 or 10. Like it was that type of like it was like 10-5. He was only like it wasn't like he jumped out to like this 20-3 lead and stuff. It was I looked over at Nick and I'm like, shit, I'm only one behind, which makes you push even harder, right? Because you're just going and going and it's just tough with bagels because when like I think we learned with Jeff and you know he took that hard swallow. I tried like Darrien tried to aggressive swallow. He coughed because it's gonna hit the throat more and not like you know it's like Jello. You can aggressive swallow Jello, it's still gonna slide even if it's like too rough. I think with that
exactly what you mean by the aggressive swallows though, because unfortunately, throughout my career, I've had a lot more bad swallows than I did good ones. That's what he said. But I do remember one time. That's when I won the cheese curd eating contest.
Yeah,
I think
it's the world record. You didn't just win, world record.
World record because they only had it that one time. But
still counts. Still counts.
But I know that day, like everything went smoothly because with there. I got lucky first off because, you know, it was a no practice crew showing up. You know, no Jeff was Joey, Gideon. I think Darrien was there. He might have practiced, but then a bunch of other randos. And I was like, yo, this is a no practice crew. This is a chance that I could win this because it's a new food. No one's ever tried this. And I just had good swallows. You know, I just grabbed a handful of cheese curds, put it in my mouth, just slam them down with water. Some of them were kind of sus, but they still went down, you know. So yeah. I understand what you mean. Like one bad swallow can really throw you off.
Same thing with like cheese curds and like going back to that candy bowl with candy corn. When the food's innately smaller, it's easier to get them down. I think sometimes with bagels being bread, it doesn't like you think about a sandwich. It doesn't necessarily collapse. It holds that shape, right?
That's true.
So I think that was an issue. I mean, Webby did a great job. Everyone did a really good job. I mean, it was really tight. I mean, to have 4th through 6 all be at 10. Darrien and I at 8, that's not too far behind. You know what I mean? And the other eaters did good. Cherish and Lizzy battle it out, and it was like 2.5 to 3.25. So even there, because I get it. Are they competing with Joey and Jeff? Not really. But like, let's build the female division. We've talked about that. You know what I mean? Like, they need to compete more. I was glad to have them at the table because if we can start to build their rivalries, right? Like we have the Joey, Jeff, and Webby kind of rivalry right now, right? Then we have the power couple, Miki and Nick battling it out. Who can beat each other in bagels, yada, 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 right? If we can get Cherish and like Glizzy, Lizzy, and Katie Prettyman and all these females to come out more, and like even Lesko, because I know she was doing stuff, but I mean, she's a great eater, whatever, and get that kind of built, shit, man, that's only going to help the sport, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
100%. And it'll definitely, bring more awareness to the female division of Nathan's as well. Because, when it comes to the female division of Nathan's, a lot of them, they only do Nathan's and that's it,
100%.
So, like, to see more of like the drama kind of build up towards Nathan's, I think that'll definitely attract more interest for the female.
It's like WWE, right? Like, you mix in those matches. Dude, a match, if it was like Lizzy and Cherish to go heads up, and we factor out all the other eaters yesterday, they were separated by less than one bagel. So we almost have a contest within a contest within a contest, which I think is like, see, I am terrible at this camera, bro. If we have like a contest where it's like Lizzy and Cherish, and then you go to the next contest of Darrien and I, where it's two people try, and you build that storyline like WWE, and it's like two guys who get told at every stake of the corner that they're not good enough and they're not talented enough, but they don't listen and they work hard and they take their vitamins and their trenbolone sandwiches and their clenbuterol and they somehow make it or fake it, And then you got Greg Savage, who's 60 years old, who's just living the dream like Hulk Hogan. I mean,
the Masters division.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. That competes in the Masters division. Over 60, bro. I'll be lucky to be alive at over 60. Right. But then you have the Joey, Jeff, and Webby. Then you have Mick and Nikki. Like, if we build these multiple storylines, it's like people are going to be more interested. Because Nick was like, I was talking with Nick yesterday, and he's like, it'd be nice if we all like were big in our own rights. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's tough. Like I told you before, I understand why Joey gets media in Vegas and I don't. It's not that I just find it more funny. Like there was a restaurant that they're like, we love Vegas locals. We have a food challenge. All the locals come out and do it. Bro, he never names me as the person that helped him get Raina to come in there. Jay Webby to come in there, Momotion, all these people came in there because I went in there and beat the challenge. And then, of course, once one eater beats a challenge, shows there's a cash prize, every eater in a 95,000-mile vicinity is coming to this fucking challenge. And he got all this attention. Never, and I'm not looking for that. It just is like the humorous part is like, you don't love Vegas locals. You love people that come to your business. Just call it what it is, man. Like, it's not that, right?
Exactly.
That's my bitter, salty rant of like, this is not the orange diner that appreciates when Darrien dines at this establishment.
Yeah, it's a real shame, but I could definitely see that being the case for sure.
So looking ahead, we'll close out bagels. Tough contest food. Where some people think that, like, the pizza video I did where it was 28 million views and everyone thought they could beat Joey's record of eating that pizza in 39 seconds. No one thought bagels was an easy food, and it'll be back next year, and we'll see what happens. Looking ahead on the schedule, on the MLE schedule, we have pistachios. We'll talk more once that contest happens. I think it's going to be Joey again because he's big in the pistachios. Jay Webby, Darrien. I'm sure Miki and Nick will be there. I think
Nick won last year.
Nick did win last year. Nick won last year with like a number of 171 pistachios. With an adjusted total after the contest I didn't go, but I just know that like innately it's tough to count those individual pistachios. Like
You'd
I
have
thought,
to do it by weight. I think it's even absurd that they try to do it by count. They should have just done it by weight.
I mean, but well, so my thing with that is though, when's the last time you ate pistachios?
Can't even recall, honestly. Probably at some dive bar somewhere.
So I tried last year because I debated going, and I bought a couple of bags because I was like, what would a good number? Like, what's a good number, right? Like,
That's how I feel with a lot of these weird contests.
so I was like, okay. And where I'm going with this is like, dude, there was 5 shells that didn't have a nut in them. So if we do it by weight, even with chicken wings, if you do it by weight, there is some amount of meat on a smaller wing. But if it doesn't have, you know what I'm saying? So like if you have a bowl, and this is like, you know, we go back to bagels. If you were to eat the bagels in front and slop that water on top, wouldn't that, like, there's got to be strategy where if you could see bagel, you could almost pull shells. Because I've never done a wing contest, but I've always heard you could theoretically take some sauce in your hand out of the bottom and really collapse some weight out of that tray.
See, I heard that was the case for Hooters, but I've only competed at the Wing Fest wing eating contest. That one, it wasn't that sauce heavy. I always thought, I mean, every year that I attended, it seemed fair, you know, I mean, because they would start you off with a 20-pound vat of wings. They would take the weight before, show it to you, and then after, like they would just weigh it, and then whatever the difference is what you ate. And I think they use some kind of formula, like, you know, like an ounce equals 1 wing or something like that.
Well, I mean, in my nerdiness of work, we sell wings by like an average of like 6 to 9. And so you just would divide it and say on average, it'll be 7.5 wings per pound and probably do that number, multiply it. No, I mean, I think pistachios is going to be great, but like that's a rare contest because I think Joey came in almost dead last year in that contest.
It's one of those fringe foods that's a great equalizer. Because I remember Adrian Morgan once told me with like technique contests like wings, he said wings are always the great neutralizer. Don't matter if you have like a super high capacity or not.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree.
From a legend.
I'd love to see Darrien win it just because like out of the blue, no one expects it. Dude, it'd be huge. But no, we'll talk about that when it gets here. We have a lot of great guests coming your way. Max versus Food has told us he wants to come on this show. Freak Eating said he'd like to come on the show. I think, Jay Webby said he would. I asked Jeff about coming on the show, and I said, you know, Darren would love to talk with you about the 109-pound diner burger. He goes, Darren knows everything. And I'm like, Jeff, we would just love to. He wasn't the warmest to it, but he said he would do it. So I think just for you,
I might have to give him a call. Maybe have a chat with him.
I would love to get him on, to be honest with you.
What we could rally everyone in the comments below. You know, let's get a petition going, folks. Let's get
a petition. I would love to get him to tell us about like bagels, right? Like right now, get him on to tell us about the bagel. Instead of me going off the information that I was told, like, Jeff, you were winning most of the contest. What happened? Like, yeah, we get the hard swallow, but like, what was it easier for him with more, like, was it, I mean, obviously the number went down, so cream cheese must have affected it, but what was it about the extra cream cheese? Or were the bagels just tougher that day? Because it was warmer this year, temperature-wise, like weather-wise, than it was the year before. Last year, when he set the record, it was colder.
So do you think that would have made a difference? Like, do you think it, like, I don't know.
I don't know. That's the fun part
about
humidity,
like affected like the starchiness of the bagels. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know. It could be the polar vortex. We don't know. It's just rotating the earth around. But all I'm getting at sometimes is like the food is so different. Because like I got someone that sent me a hate message the other day about competitive eating is not a sport. And I'm like, when did I say it was a sport? I never said it was a sport. Maybe I have in the past, but it was nothing like I had said. This is the greatest sport ever. And I was like, But sometimes I feel like it is a sport because your body some days is better than others. And on some days, the food hits differently and is cooked differently than others. Like there's no like consistent variables, right? Like you play basketball, not all basketballs bounce the same. You play in, Virginia, and the court can be different than the court in Vegas based off. I mean, it's just crazy sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
So, you got any other questions about bagels?
Not off the top of the head, no.
Well, we appreciate you all for joining on another episode all about bagels of Between the Buns, not Behind the Buns. I enjoy being behind the buns. It's the most fun you can have. But this is the latest and greatest competitive eating podcast. Between the Buns, diving in between the subjects of the hardest hitting sport, non-sport in the world, competitive eating. And this is Darrien Eats. I'm Heavy D. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.